Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Walk the Block, where we are navigating digital finance together. I am your host for the evening, Zenith, and I'm joined by my excellent cast of characters as always. Up first, we got Mr. Agent J. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing very well. I cannot say the same for the markets at the current moment in time. It's it's been whiplash is an understatement. We'll go over my thoughts in detail when we go over the charts, but my goodness, it's really as much as I want to stay bullish, you guys know I'm a structure guy. And when the structure flips so suddenly like that, it's like I can't just ignore it. And I really, as much as I want to keep being bullish. The fact that we just gave back all of the gains from the weekend, most of the gains, I wouldn't say all of the gains, we gave back almost all of the gains from yesterday's candle is very disheartening. So we'll go over those scenarios in the chart, but I'm doing much better than the crypto markets at the moment because it was a sea of red today. Let me tell you, brother.
Yeah. We, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to talk about on that one. But like you said, big. We had was it Sunday? We had the big old green candle, and then today we had a big old red candle, almost matching the dang thing. So yeah, we'll get into that in a bit.
Is another statement. It was an engulfing candle, which means it completely took out all of the gains from Sunday.
Oof. Alrighty, well, we'll get into that shortly. Outside of that, we got the final of the three amigos tonight. We got Tracker. How we doing, my man?
Doing great, guys. Great to hear you. I hear Jay's, and I'm right there with him. The structure is not looking good, but at the same time, I will say this: the long-term horizon for crypto, the foundation is getting set. I mean, we're going to dive into all of it, but there's a lot of good long-term structure being put into place and actions being moved. It's definitely, we are living in interesting times that honestly, I can't wait to get into this because we're seeing stuff that's changing, like strategic reserves, things like that. That this isn't something that just happens every decade. This is once in a blue moon type thing that events that create place. So this is going to be pretty interesting, very interesting to see. Excited.
Absolutely. Alrighty. On top of that, tonight we're going to be talking about new proposals for the American Crypto Strategic Reserve and what that anticipation is leading up to this crypto summit that is happening this Friday, March 7th. So, got a bit of a big news week coming out. And on top of that, we also do want to touch on the Richard Heart SEC case getting dismissed. So, for the folks that caught our history of Pulse Chain and Hex stream, this is a bit of a follow up to that one. We didn't talk a whole lot about the legal stuff in that stream, just because I think we've kind of beat that one to death, and we just wanted to give you the basics and tell the folks why we personally think it's a good project. And outside of that, we do have some good news now, which is exciting. So, with all of that being said, let's get straight into it, shall we? Mr. Agent J, let's pull up them charts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got my Bitcoin chart here pulled up. Let me just know when you guys are able to see it. There we go.
We see it.
Yes.
Wonderful. So
I don't like it, but I see it.
Let's I think a lot of other people share your sentiment, Mr. Tracker. Look, yesterday we spoke about how the bull stepped in pretty convincingly and drove price upwards, and it seemed like we would have a cycle low already in. And then I also said right after that statement that the only thing that could potentially change my mind is if we completely giga dumped into the following candle for the Monday. And I don't know if I jinxed it, but that's exactly what we got. If you can see here, this is the candle body close for the Monday candle, which just closed about an hour ago. This is an engulfing candle, which basically took out all of the gains that we made on Sunday, which now opens up the possibility that although, yes, we do have a day 46 low here, and it could potentially be the cycle low. The fact that we gave back almost all of the gains in a single day's worth of candle, on top of the potential headwinds, right? Because we still do have labor market data coming in this week, which could present. It's very early in the week, ladies and gentlemen. There are plenty of opportunities for FUD events to push the price down, which will liquidate the longs and push the price down even further to cap it off at the potential bad news we might get this Friday. So it's very early on in the week. And so is it completely possible that we do still sweep this cycle low here on day number 46 and could potentially have a different cycle count? Like just for argument's sake, let's say we sweep the low here on day 46, then that still opens up the possibility that we could keep rolling over and take us all the way up to day 60, which is the second week of March on the 14th, and keep looking for new cycle lows, which we will actually go over during the bearish scenario. But as it stands, until we take that cycle low, we can label a day 46 60-day cycle already in, and we are currently on day 4 of the cycle. Z, there was a lot of conversation in our chat today, in particular from Mr. Benny Blanco from the Bronx, and he said that what is your opinion on the differing cycle counts, because his cycle count mirrors Mr. Bob Lucas's count, and I have a different one. I think yours and I's might be the same, and I think he also referenced Charlie from Cultivate Crypto, and I think you, myself, and Charlie have the same count as well. What is your opinion on the current Bitcoin 60-day cycle count? How do you think it plays out, and which one are you leaning in favor more of? Or do you think it doesn't matter either way?
You beat me to the punch there. I was actually going to give Benny a shout out as well, because that was the big question of the day over in our community chat. What's the saying around here between you and I? We'll assume that the trend is going to continue to hold until it doesn't. And it's kind of the classic one in the hand is worth more than two in the bush. So we already have a very convincing cycle low possibility there. I think it falls well within the probable range. So I'm still leaning on the 46-day cycle, but at the same time, it is entirely possible that we could get another cycle low and end up somewhere around day like 58, 59, right at that like super close to the average there. Only time will tell. We have to get confirmation on it. But as it stands right now, I think the 46-day cycle is the one that I'm working off of.
Yep, agreed. And the conversation that I had with Benny, and this is for anybody that is wondering about how the 60-day cycles work, there are hard rules that we follow when tracking the Lucas cycles, but depending on the analyst that's doing it, right? When you inject a human into an analysis, you also inject their subjectivity of that analysis. But what I told him, and this might give other people some comfort, is that at the end of the day, the competent analyst, we might have differing cycle counts in the beginning, but we tend to end up at the very similar cycle lows. You guys have probably seen me and Zenith go back and forth on this on our flagship show on Degen Roundtable, because there have been more than a handful of times that our cycle counts have differed, but at the end of the day, we always seem to find ourselves at the very end of the same cycle low, and then the count resets and we start all over. So I think at the end of the day, it really is a wash, although I'm sure there are some exceptions. But at the end of the day, just know that there still exists the possibility that we do sweep the 46-day cycle low and continue to look for prices to go down. And that's actually what we're going to observe during this particular analysis, because over the weekend, I was leaning towards the bullish scenario because they invalidated a lot of the bearish cases up. And then in a single daily candle, the bear said, hold my beer, and they pushed price back down and completely invalidated multiple bullish scenarios themselves. And so as it stands, my personal opinion, the bearish probability is now once again the dominant one. So let's actually go down into the 1 hour charts. Let's turn off our 60-day cycle counts and take a look at the bearish scenario on the 1 hour chart. So just a little bit of a refresher. And you know what's really upsetting? It is really upsetting because yesterday I said I have one major bearish scenario left. And it just so happens that it was the one that was confirmed today. I was like, can't the bulls catch a break here? But that's besides the point, right? What happened, and we can only adapt to it. So what we're looking at this scenario is an A, B, C, an A in green and B in green already in, and we are looking for the C to sweep the low. In your A, we have a 5-wave move down. That's the purple count. In your B, we have an A, B, C in purple, also already completed. And then, finally, for the C wave, we are looking for another 5-wave move to the downside to complete a zigzag pattern. What are our targets for the C wave? In particular, this box over here, in between 74,799 and 68,183. Why is that box very interesting for us in terms of price? Well, if you take a trend-based Fib extension from the very start to the end of A to the end of B, the very common Fibonacci extension comparing the length of A to the length of C is the 1-for-1 extension, which is at 74,782. Now, a C wave can extend as far down as the 1.236 and 1.382 Fib extension, and can even extend as far down as the 1.618, which is down there at 64,442. However, our minimum targets are in the green box, 74,782, forming the very top range of that support. And that would actually still be okay, because 74,782 will still not invalidate the overall bullish structure that has formed over the entire current 4-year cycle. So we're still okay in that degree. In terms of time, when can we expect this correction to finish if we are working on the bearish count? Well, if you take a Fib time tool, now we're comparing the length of A to the length of C. Ideally, C ends minimum at the 382 Fib time, which places us on Wednesday, March 5th, right at midnight. Now, that is very short for a wave C, and what you tend to see is that A and C tend to be equal in terms of time, in terms of length. And so what ideally we would like to see is for this move to end sometime in between the 1 and the 2 Fib times, which places us at Sunday, March 9th to the following Sunday, March 16th. And so that actually places us well within the timeline of that current 60-day cycle if we were to sweep the 46-day cycle low. So now you have your price targets and you also have your time targets for the bearish scenario. And the reason why we are leaning a little bit more bearish at this moment is because even though we have a bullish scenario, it is of a very, very lower probability. And I will show you exactly why. Let's go ahead and turn off those counts for the bears. And let's go down for the bulls. So on the bullish side, what you're looking for, let's go down to the 15-minute chart so that we can actually see the structure a lot better. What we're looking for the bulls is an expanding diagonal. Expanding diagonals are possible, but the reason why this is a lower probability is that expanding diagonals are extremely, extremely, extremely rare and should never be considered unless all other possibilities have been eliminated. And in this case, it has. Expanding diagonals are so called because the bounds of your diagonal are, you guessed it, they are expanding, just like in this case. If you're going to get technical about it, your 1 is shorter in magnitude compared to your 3, and your 3 is shorter in magnitude compared to your 5. Same thing with your corrective waves. 2 is shorter in terms of magnitude compared to your 4. Now, that means we can have potential price targets for your wave 5. If you take a Fib extension tool, from the very start to the end of 3 to the end of 4, what you'll see is that we have a minimum target here of, well, actually, it can't be a minimum target. It has to go beyond the 1-for-1 Fib extension Because like I said, one of the rules for an expanding diagonal is your 5 is greater in magnitude compared to your 3. And so we would like this 5 for the expanding diagonal to extend beyond 96,149. Now, is there an alternative bullish scenario? Yeah, there is, but you're really going to have to twist the chart in order to create one. You could argue that you do have a 1, 2, but where's your 3 and your 4? If you really wanted to twist my arm, you could say this is 3. You have a very, very short 4, and then your 5. And now that completes your wave 1 impulse, and you're now looking for a 2. The reason why I don't like this is because you do have to really try and fit and impose a bullish bias on this very obvious 1, 2, 3 wave structure. And I do not like doing that, right? I already know that as a human, my subjectivity and my biases come onto my analysis, even though I try my best not to do those things. And so this very obviously looks like a 3-wave move to me, which yells and screams corrective, which makes me believe that this is corrective, and that means we're headed for another move down, right? So yes, you can try and impose a 5-wave sequence here, but it is so disgustingly dirty and not clean at all that, like, I will admit that if I try to do this, I would be really imposing my biases onto this chart, right? And so that's why I do not like this particular structure. However, there is one silver lining here. I mentioned this earlier on our Monday morning, well, today is Monday, on our morning market open stream, and that is when we had this initial bounce, right? When we had our local top here, we headed down, and then our first bounce to the upside, we did hit the 886. Which means on a balance of probabilities, you're going to take this high, right? You can very clearly see that we hit the 886 here, that you're going to take this high at some point in time. Ideally, sooner rather than later, but we do have to see how the rest of this structure matures. But if I were to put a silver lining there, it is that we did have this 886 touch before this move down. You know, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I really hate it when I have to be bearish, but the structure is corrective. The structure is bearish. If we took out this high here, we would have had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impulsive structure just fine. And I would have perfectly been okay with this move down, right? Because at the very minimum, you had a 5-wave sequence move up, but that's just not what happened. We got rejected at the 886 and proceeded to correct harshly to the downside. So if I were to put a silver lining, that is it. But if you had to ask me, which way are you leaning? I am leaning bearish because this is a very obvious corrective structure. So that is where I will leave you guys for the analysis today. You do have your targets for the bullish scenario. You have your time and your price targets for the bearish scenario. We have to trade probabilities. We never trade our biases. We have to trade probabilities, and we take it level by level. So I'll leave you guys at that. The week is still early. Plenty of things can happen. So just trade safely.
Jay, I do have a hypothetical for you here. So in your opinion, what's the possibility that what you have identified as the top of wave 3 is actually just a larger wave 1?
The thing is, Z, if I were to count a 1 here, so is this what you're asking? If this is a 1, right?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm
then
asking.
We're looking for a 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is what I was outlining on the earlier scenario. Because if you were to count this entire move up here as a 1, we know that in your impulses, right, in every single motive wave, you can also and should be able to break the structure down into a 5-wave sequence. And so we can clearly say that you have a 1, a very short 2, which is fine. It's rare, but it's fine, right? It's not impossible. Where's your 3 and your 4 and your 5? this is why
These
I
are
mean
all
by
excellent questions.
right. Where's your 3? You could argue that this would have been your 3 and a 4, but you don't have a 5. So if you tried to really twist the data, you could label your 3 here, 4 here, and then 5. Right? Let's change the color there just so it's a bit clearer for the folks at home.
And for the folks at home, what Jay and I are talking about here right now is the idea of waves inside of waves, which is that
Yes.
there are like minor, major, and macro waves, and they all exist kind of inside of each other. And again, this is
Yes.
Elliott wave theory. This is based off of, oh shit, I forgot the author's name, but his book. And one of the things he talks about is that this is all just market
Frost and
psychology.
Spector.
Thank you very much. So one of the reasons why I personally, I'm just trying to play a little devil's advocate here. One of the reasons why I think Jay is correct with trying to, what we initially identified as that wave 3 is the volume candles below. Because remember, volume typically drives your wave 3. You want to see your biggest volume in your wave 3. And by the volume on the chart, that's where it looked like it was. But now we're asking ourselves the questions that we're asking now and trying to scratch our heads and figure out, okay, what's really going on here?
Yep. And like I said, if I zoom in here, you can argue that you do have a correction here and it could be your 4. But remember, your 4s tend to be longer in time compared to your 2s, and that is just not the case. We didn't even hit the minimum time targets, which makes me even less likely to consider this scenario. And like Zenith said, yes, you are absolutely correct. The majority of the volume you're looking for should come in your wave 3. However, remember the bearish scenario we went over? Well, unfortunately for the bulls, this kind of volume, we either see it during a 3 or a C, which is corrective. And if I could zoom out here just one more time on this chart, right, and pull up our bearish scenario one more time. Oh, looks like I accidentally deleted my bearish scenarios. I can pull it up later, but let me just show you folks, right? Our bearish scenario was this: A, B, C, and that would complete your bigger wave in B. And so, because this volume came in here and we didn't take the high, this is making me believe that instead of a 3, this is a C, because your volume candle can also come in during the C wave of a correction. So, and that's where I will leave you folks.
To really hammer it home, I guess what we're talking about right here is the corrective pattern to the upside as part of a larger corrective pattern down to the downside. That is the best read that we have for the possibility of the 60-day cycle still continuing, which means that if we still get that extra corrective leg and we go, and we even sweep below, what was it, like 78,000? Yeah, that's what we're going to be looking for on this one.
Yes. Yep, that is absolutely 100% correct. So we will see what the week brings us. It is very early, so
this is true.
Bulls can't catch a break.
that is very true.
Jay, I would say that box you put in there though, that's a really good that box puts you right in at the top to the top section of all of 2024. That was that sideways consolidation. I'm assuming that's where the box came from. Or is that just a coincidence?
It exists just slightly above it, but we're getting close. We're getting close to that the top range of that support from 2024.
Yeah, that's 73,500, give or take one.
Yeah.
True. As far as the rest of the market goes, I hate to report it, but there's not really much deviation. Everything else is following Bitcoin's price very heavily right now, and we're getting the usual ratios of it, or I guess percentages you could say, which is that altcoins are continuing to move higher and further down as Bitcoin moves up and down as well. So whatever Bitcoin's doing, the rest of the market right now is really just doing the same thing, but just slightly exaggerated. So if you go look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, you'll see that echoed entirely in the sentiment, which is that when we had the big Bitcoin move down, because the rest of the altcoins bled more than Bitcoin, you actually saw dominance tick up a little bit. And that's one of those things that signals to me that the market is very, very correlated right now. So we're not really seeing a whole lot of breakouts, not really any outliers or anything. But right now, Bitcoin's still leading the way, and that's the way she usually goes.
Well, just to add to the macro side of the house, I'll state the obvious. You know, the headlines are basically is what's driving the spooking everybody out. I mean, obviously you have the tariffs that kick in tomorrow, right? Those are kicking in with China and Mexico. Those are kicking in. There's a big uncertainty there because the economists and the companies they're they're trying to figure out, okay, how's that going to be impacted to certain investments? Yet they're trying to quickly calculate because it's coming on so quickly. So they're having to hurry up and make adjustments. So this is probably why you see more rotation into defensive stocks, things like that during these correction times. Yeah, that going on. He just came out and stated that he is now halting U.S. aid to Ukraine. So that's another big macro case coming in. Basically, all this uncertainty, we talk about it all the time. I mean, this is it. Markets hate uncertainty, and this is why you're going to get it on. And much as why crypto is going to get really smacked in the mouth because, it's risk off right now, and people are going to be in the traditional markets going to be running to those dividend stocks and bonds and things like that, unfortunately. But here's the thing. If this, I don't even, what do you want to call it? Chicken, basically, with the other countries. If somebody gives quicker sooner than later, this could be over in no time. If a deal comes through, then I could see the markets react and take off. There's a lot of things that are still, in my mind, still supporting. Yes, I agree. Short-term volatility, uncertainty, you're going to be more, there's going to be more likelihood to the downside. TAs obviously support that. On the long-term horizon, we already talked about it briefly on all of the great stuff. I know we're going to get into it, all the foundational stuff happening here, right? So you've got the crypto reserve we'll talk about. That's a positive. You have these tariffs, or once these things get worked out, it'll probably be better for a U.S. company base once they get this thing ironed out, and maybe hopefully for the other countries as well. That'll leave more certainty. And then on top of that, once you work out some of these other issues that are, looming, it's going to be more clear sailing, and it's going to be, easier to take off. Now, and that's the other thing. We know that the powdered keg is the quantitative easing. So maybe the tariffs are the predecessor to cause maybe economic downturn that maybe then triggers the need for QE. I don't know. That's another opportunity to think about.
It's entirely possible. I think you kind of hit it right on the head there, talking about how there's uncertainty in the market. And I think this is one of the tools that I'm using to really confirm that, which is the fear and greed index is rather low right now. We're sitting right at about 24. Yesterday was 22, although by yesterday, I think it's talking about the Greenwich Mean Time close, aka 34 minutes ago. But overall, looking at what we see going on with the chart is, there's a lot more uncertainty and doubt. And we saw that really happen here on, what was that? The 27th, I want to say, when we got all the way down to 20 on this chart. And on my other fear greed tracker, this one has it even worse right now. Right now we're sitting at about 15. Yesterday was 33 and last week was 25, but we even got all the way down to 10 on this one. This is one of those things that really shows where the market is. It's definitely a softer metric for sure, but at the same time, if we're talking about Elliott wave theory, we're talking about all the other tools we use. A lot of it is just market sentiment based on market psychology, and some of that is driven by fear, uncertainty, and doubt when it happens.
Absolutely. We haven't had a fear and greed index hit the 10 until post-Celsius. The last time was post-Celsius back in the middle of 2022, which was our last bear market.
And to add to that, I posted today the VIX. This is the fourth highest spike in the VIX going all the way back to the beginning of 2023. So that's quite some time. Fourth largest day right now. I mean, during these little blips, if you zoom out on the VIX, you don't have to, obviously, but I'm just saying it's so when the VIX spikes like that, the fear and greed index, they're measuring the same thing, uncertainty and volatility, and they basically are correlated in that aspect.
For reference, we do have the VIX index here. You can see, green candle on the VIX means higher volatility. Doesn't necessarily mean downside, although it just usually means larger swings either way. So exactly like you said, there we go. I think we peaked out at about 24.5 on the weekly. Daily, today is the biggest day for it. There you go.
Now, the thing about downturns in markets that people need to understand, whether traditional, crypto, everything, once people digest it, and it's digested and no more bad news is coming out, then it's willing to accept it, and it will start to figure things out as it digests it. Now, if more bad news keeps coming, it keeps piling on, well, then more uncertainty piles on, the more to the downside we go. It's quite that simple. So hopefully we have better news coming out, and we're going to dive into some topics today that hopefully will certainly help the crypto area.
We do have some positive news coming over the weekend, so
That we do. Tell you what, let's go ahead and start talking about that right now. So, from Eric Trump on Twitter, but more importantly, from DJT, aka number 45 and 47, we have a U.S. crypto reserve will elevate this crypto industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directed by the Presidential Working Group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve that involves XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I will make sure that the U.S. is the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again. And then we also have the the follow-up says, and obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum as other valuable cryptocurrencies will be at the heart of the reserve. So
I also love Bitcoin and Ethereum.
There you go. I think it was just like so obvious on that one in his mind. He's like, oh, might as well just get this back in here as a second thought. But yeah, from Eric Trump, one of the interesting things about this one is this was a Sunday tweet. This is not a business hours tweet. From Eric Trump, we have, I love the genius of announcing a strategic reserve on a Sunday when traditional markets are closed and Wall Street sleeps. For the first time, retail investors win. Traditional finance better catch up or it will quickly become extinct. The world no longer runs on a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. All right, folks, those crypto markets 24/7, baby.
Yep.
Just for some comic relief, I mean, it's funny. He stated the next one within an hour span, hour difference. Pretty sure he had some people blowing up his phone or his text saying, "Dude, where the heck's Bitcoin at there?" I'm sure he got bombarded, so he had to get out there immediately and correct it.
I guarantee that's exactly what happened. Because my guy, you were in the Bitcoin conference. You were in Bitcoin Nashville, and talk about shot to the heart of the Bitcoin maxis. The first tweet mentions XRP, Solana, and Cardano, and no mention of Ethereum, let alone Bitcoin. Talk about shot to the heart. He definitely rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So this is a little bit of a backtracking, but I think somebody from his marketing team said, "Dude, like let's tag on to that tweet because
I think it's a hell of a fumble." That's what it looks like to me. It's a hell of a fumble.
It's either that or my read on this one is that this is more of a continuation on the idea of Trump trying to promote US-based cryptos. And according to him, he sees these three as US-based cryptocurrencies, which I would agree with. But the question is, what degree of a or I guess what percentage of your company is operating on American soil is the question that we've all been left kind of scratching our heads over, because he's made the executive order talking about trying to do the crypto strategic reserve, and then many other tweets talking about trying to promote crypto inside the United States, and then also previously even floating the idea of no capital gains on American-based cryptos. But where's the technical definition there? That's the big question. You got to find out where you draw the line in the sand.
Yeah, I think this is very typical of Trump. The technical definitions are probably going to come from the person who actually writes up the executive order, the details of the executive order, and that is most likely going to be Senator Lummis. She's going to be appearing most likely during the Friday event, which is the first ever crypto summit. So we're probably going to get a bit more meat to chew on during that crypto summit. What was interesting, though, and I'd like to pose this question to the both of you, we got a lot of, let's just say, pushback, not just because he failed to mention Bitcoin and Ethereum first. That was just kind of a ha-ha thing, but a lot of people definitely had something to say, a bone to pick about putting XRP, Solana, and Cardano in a reserve. A lot of people, for example, one of the Winklevoss twins from Gemini, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, said that it's probably prudent that we keep it just to Bitcoin for now. What do you guys think? Do you think it's reasonable that we throw all of these other things? I mean, they are higher market cap assets, but do you think it's reasonable, or is it even necessary to throw all of these other things into a reserve, or should we just keep it Bitcoin?
I think the question you got to ask with that is, what is your objective? If you're trying to create stability, then going only Bitcoin makes the most sense in that regard, because Bitcoin is the oldest, first in the market, first in, best dressed, and it's starting to show that it's having diminishing returns in the gain sector and also on the dumps as well. Cryptocurrency is still highly, highly volatile, especially considering when you put it up against the traditional markets or even like the price of gold per se. Although the gold chart is mainly just up and to the right against the US dollar. That's more of an aspersion on the US dollar, in my personal opinion. But it all comes back to, what are your goals? What are you trying to do with it? If you're trying to strengthen the American crypto industry, then including some of those American-based cryptos makes sense. At the same time, though, I think no one is confused that crypto is highly volatile. I think we're all starting to realize that, or the traditional finance is starting to realize it and stomach it at the same time, which is they're willing to accept that reality. So again, what are your goals? Are you looking for growth? Are you looking for stability? Are you looking to protect a domestic market? It all comes down to that. And I still don't think we have a great answer on that one. But at the end of the day, I think no one is confused that the US dollar continues to lose value over time as we continue to print it and the national debt goes up. So that's kind of the baseline assumption that I think a lot of people in government are working on, and using cryptocurrency as a bit of a hedge is one way to help reduce that downside, or at least kind of like project value into the future, so to speak.
Well said, Zenith. I would say, like you said, what are they trying to solve? Which would be the ultimate question. If they're going to start in that case, ask the question, what are you trying to solve by doing this crypto reserve? Because like you said, there's a lot of different scenarios here. All these countries are going to start piling on and hedging their bets. I mean, we just saw China saying that they're going to come out with their own reserve now because of it, and so forth and so on. And of course, China is, because they're the second largest holder of crypto, of Bitcoin, I believe. Yeah, I think they do. I know the United States is number one, China's number two, and then so forth. But anyhow, so it's a hedge against. It's hedging off all bets, regardless.
There is.
Oh, sorry, guys. I apologize.
All good. All good.
They have to hedge their bets on all aspects, whether that is the United States controls the most gold, they control the most Bitcoin, they're going to now control the most digital reserves. They're hedging all their bets, and that's what they're doing. Now, the reason why they're focusing on these US-based companies, listen, the US is going to support the technologies they have here at home, because whether the people who are putting this together or not realize it or not, they're going to treat this like the technology companies. The US-based technology companies were moved a lot faster than the world. The world caught up, right? So you have your Googles, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Amazons, all of those major tech companies that make up our world today. I have a feeling they're going to try to use those companies to do the same. And that's, once again, making sure that they have the technology locked down from a security standpoint in the United States, and basically lean on what they'll call.
Lost you again, sir.
Subject matter themselves to protect the United States versus everybody else. So to protect themselves from a technology wise, protect themselves for currency wise, and then of course just investing in the United States alone is just another reason why they would want to probably get behind it. I think during his inauguration, you saw some major tech companies there at his inauguration. So he's already in bed with the technology companies. Clearly, we already know that. So why would he not extend it even further? This could be also they're going down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out how this is going to work, and they're now announcing it because we knew that Charles Hoskin and the others had already been talking to the Trump administration. So we kind of saw this coming a little bit because they were already kind of talking. We knew there were some rumors around that. So like you said, ultimately, what are they trying to solve? But I think ultimately they're going to try to solve as much as they can. Now, the scary part for me, and this is the one thing in the back of my head that I'm always worried about, is, and I know a lot of people are going to like to hear this, but is Trump the Trojan horse? Meaning he's got everybody supporting and liking everything he's doing with no pushback. Is this the way to grease the wheels and put things in place, using the technologies in place to eventually usher in, the thing we're always being worrying about? Is it the digital IDs? Is it the smart cities and all this stuff we've heard about conspiracy wise? Is that something that we need to be concerned about? Because that's one thing I'm always kind of leery about. And if you're not, and then just to add one little more caveat, I know I'm going on a long tangent here, so I apologize, but I'm going to add one more thing to this. If you have not done any investigation looking at what Project Stargate is, I highly recommend you looking at it. That's a $500 billion project in the United States that they're putting into place, where they're trying to move a lot of data to these, specifically Microsoft's Azure cloud systems, and they're trying to centralize all the data, including healthcare systems, whether Medicaid and other government agencies are trying to move all the data there. I know that it's out there, it's far-fetched, but Stargate is a real project that's really happening. So that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about. But I think that just supports why you're supporting these US-based cryptocurrency companies, because of the proprietorship and for the subject matter experts. Sorry for the long-winded expression.
No, excellent soapbox, sir. But I don't think that's far-fetched at all. It's no surprise that the AI race is currently the bleeding edge of technology right now as it stands. I know there's been a little bit of news about like quantum computing, but I think that AI technology and the race for large scale AI domination in the space, or market capture, is really the name of the game. This is something that a lot of people are picking up on, and it takes a lot of infrastructure, it takes a lot of investment, and I think it's going to take. There's a bit of a learning curve to go with it. I've been trying to do a little bit of research on it, and there's people that are trying to do AI real estate, and I'm not talking about like NFT land sales for GameFi or anything. I'm talking about people are trying to pitch these properties as, oh, this is ready to be a data center, but they're lacking serious fundamentals because they don't have an understanding of what it takes. They're like, oh yeah, we got plenty of space, and they're like, cool, how much power are you going to give us? They're like, I don't know. They're like, cool, do you have backup generators? No. They're like, well, backup generators have a massive lead time right now. And then additionally, it's like, oh, do you have water? And they're like, why would an AI center need water? Well, because computers need cooling, and water is one of the best ways to thermally cool systems. So there's a learning curve going on here with people trying to get ahead of the market, trying to actually build out and trying to establish dominance in the AI space. So it's not far-fetched at all. AI is a very real race going on right now, and I think that people are they're going to have to wisen up, or at least really cut their teeth and get into it.
And just to add to that, the other piece of it, so you're hearing all these federal employees being cut back. It was because they want to change it to be more lean running. They're going to use AI. They're going to centralize the data. They're going to use technology to basically usher that in and upgrade and make it more proficient and streamlined. Government is at least how it's being pitched. Whether it ends up being a good thing or a bad thing, hey, you guys can take the blue pill or the red pill, I guess, at this point.
The only pushback you're to get from me on that one is I think that issue of cutting back on government employees, call me a government cynic, if you will, but I think that is more of a political fight that's going on, and an ideological battle about the fourth branch of the government, which is the entrenched bureaucratic state. But I don't know if government's going to be fast to adopt AI. I will say this. I have friends that do some secret scroll work, and they're like, yeah, they're pushing AI really hard. But at the same time, we can't use AI systems at all because they don't want us feeding classified information into it. So it seems more like a facade on that front. It's like, wow, great. You built the supercomputers, but you're not allowed to put anything into it. Good job.
You can, but AI can still replace a lot of manual
for sure. You're absolutely correct.
So yeah, you can make things like that. Absolutely. But like you said, the technology and sensitive data, yeah, that's a whole nother ballgame you have to worry about. But I don't know. Obviously you're kind of seeing everything kind of laying out in front of you. And of course it goes back to the whole, if you really want to get on the bigger side of the conspiracies, you get into the whole 2030 great reset, all that stuff that people talk about. But it's funny because a lot of these systems they're trying to have in place and up, they keep mentioning 2030. So when I say this is like mainstream. These are people talking about it and the technology. And I know they're going to be leveraging the technology, and blockchain technology is certainly going to be in that wheelhouse, as well as AI and quantum computing.
That's true for sure. I do want to use this as a bit of a segue. So we were talking about how the government agencies are getting cut back right now, and that's from atop the policy. And I think what we're also seeing at the same time is a realignment on many other fronts. I think the international relations with Ukraine is a good tell of that, but also we're seeing internally executive administrations such as the SEC starting to change their tune on things as well. As of yet, we still do not have a confirmation hearing set for Paul Atkins to be the new head chair of the SEC, but we have seen a lot of action from the SEC this week. And we are going to talk about the Richard Hart case, but before we even get to that one, one thing I do want to say is that this last week, the SEC kind of went 0 for 5. They pulled back and dropped investigations into Robinhood, Uniswap, Gemisci, Consensus, and this morning, Kraken also is reporting that the SEC has dropped the case against them as well. So that's 5 investigations that the SEC is willingly dropping. And then on top of that, we do also have the official court ruling coming out of the 2nd District of New York. And that was about the Richard Hart Pulse Chain case, where they pretty much said that the SEC does not have jurisdiction over this person who launched a crypto asset on the internet and then is stationed over in Finland. And just because it's on the internet doesn't mean the US can just claim jurisdiction over it. So what I'm seeing here is we're seeing a realignment from the top down, and it's having ripple effects all throughout. The SEC dropping investigations, cryptocurrency making major headway in the courts, and actually getting rulings in favor saying this asset is a new thing. And just because you believe that you have the ability to regulate anything and everything on the internet, that's not actually the case. So real quick, I will go through this very, very briefly. If you want the full breakdown on this, we've had multiple streams over on the DGen Roundtable on Friday for an emergency book club. One of my co-hosts, Will Stevenson, he and I read this entire document top to bottom. So if you want to actually read this, or if you want to have it read to you, you can put it on double speed. We do not mind at all. Please do that to get top to bottom. And then we also had a legal expert and good friend of ours, Nuclear Herbs, hop on the Sunday show yesterday, and we talked about all this, the ramifications, and what's going on with that. But the headline here is that the motion to dismiss was granted. So this wasn't a bench trial or anything like that. But what this was that the SEC brought the case, and the defendant in the case was like, you do not have enough to even pursue this in a court anywhere. And the judge ruled with them, saying that they do not have jurisdiction over this because Richard Hart is a citizen of Finland as well, was not targeting the United States, was not operating inside of the United States. Therefore, the SEC can't just reach wherever it wants to claim jurisdiction over stuff. Gentlemen, what do we think about my little narrative that I spun there? Are we seeing a realignment? What are we looking at in the cryptosphere here?
Jay, I do want Jay to talk on, because I know you asked us the question about the cryptocurrency reserves, and me and Zia both talked about it, but we didn't get a chance to hear Jay's response on what he thought about it.
Enough, so
okay.
I try to hang back when people have an engaging discussion on the topic at hand. So don't worry.
That's what we aim for: engaging discussion.
Enough. All right. So what do we think about RH?
So for me personally, I think that a lot of people are going to make the argument that just because we transitioned into a new SEC regime, I guess you could argue that that's the reason why these cases are being dropped left and right, because Gary's no longer there. We have Mark Ueda as the acting commissioner, and he's obviously very pro-crypto. So a lot of people are probably speculating, well, they just probably dropped it because they're pro-crypto. Which is reasonable. I guess you can make that argument. But in this particular case, at least with Richard's case, right? This thing actually was, the decision was made by a judge that you did not have enough evidence. You didn't have, but not only that, you did not have jurisdiction on this particular matter. And so we can't even proceed to trial in the first place. And out of all of the other cases that were litigated involving the SEC, this is the only one, as far as I'm aware of, where the judge was like, nope, you don't have just jurisdiction, and we are going to drop the case. I think, or the motion to dismiss was granted, which is very rare in and of itself. I think the only other really solid win that a company had against the SEC was the one with Debtbox. Right? That one was a pretty open and shut case. I think the words, or what were the words used to describe that case?
Egregious malfeasance.
It was capricious, something in capricious. And so I think, yes, do we have a more favorable SEC towards crypto? Absolutely. But at least in Richard Hart's case, that an actual judge handed down the decision. But I think anybody who anybody who would look over the particulars of each individual lawsuit that the Gary Gensler SEC sent to all of these different companies, I think anybody sifting through those are thinking this was obviously I wouldn't say personal, but these accusations have no merit, and we would not want to proceed forward because the probabilities of us losing are very high, and we probably would not want to expend any more of the taxpayer money fighting these losing cases, which we already have plenty of losses in the realm of crypto. Let's not extend the losing streak because we would like to keep our reputation as an entity. So that's my thoughts on those things.
We're going to sound like the crypto industry, and I think the traditional finance and banking community is going to sound kind of like crazy people for the next few years as to the new people that come into the space, because there's going to be kind of a weird PTSD over the SEC being run by Gary Gensler, where they tried to just rule by lawsuit as opposed to, put out good regulation and good rules to, facilitate markets and regulate them. So I think we're kind of getting back to the basics here, which is that hopefully we're going to start to see good regulation come out instead of just trying to sue everybody into enforcement. I think that what we're seeing now with all the investigations being dropped by the SEC is one of the telltale signs for that. But then also, I think one of the things that really is in favor of crypto is all the court cases that are winning, because the administrations will change. As much as the anti-Trump people are screaming that he's going to try to become president for life and run for a third, fourth, fifth term and just issue himself as president for life, it's like, that's not going to happen. We got 4 more years of Trump, and that's it. After that, it's a new administration. Could be Democrat, could be Republican, could be any flavor or combination of either one, because they're not monoliths entirely. So when you see the SEC getting back to the basics, I think that's a good sign. Things can also change in the future, but when you actually set precedent through the courts, that's where you get the more permanent, lasting change. It is possible for court cases to get overturned by a higher court in the future if it gets brought up in a different case and it's found to be bad law. Yeah. That's true. But at the same time, though, crypto's just been stacking up so many wins in the court system. That's the stuff I'm going to point to and say, these are going to be the lasting effects. These are going to be the pillars that you can stand on. Right now, a lot of those wins are largely just saying that old securities laws don't apply, which means that it's kind of breaking out into its own undefined space, but that space is still largely undefined, and that's going to be up to this administration and probably the next if they are unable to get firm crypto legislation through. But that's where I'm seeing crypto going and where the winds are kind of at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The winds are certainly blowing in a positive direction. The government moves at a snail's pace, at a turtle's pace. And so, like you said, we might be able to at least get the foundation down during this 4-year term, but it might be up to the next administration, hopefully somebody who's also pro-crypto, to get those things moving along, right? We might just have the opportunity to establish a foundation now, because obviously things have to go through Congress, they have to go through Senate, and then they get the John Hancock from the president himself. But I am hopeful because we do have a fairly pro-crypto, certainly Congress, and now at least a neutral to positive Senate, because the head of the Senate Majority Leader is very pro crypto. He had dinner with Charles.
There you go, breaking bread with the crypto boys.
Yeah.
To put it shortly, I would say that crypto is the fastest moving asset, but the legal system is the slowest moving government mechanism that there is. So it's the classic technology advances faster than the laws can adapt. And that gap is only growing with the technology. All right, gentlemen.
I would say this, though. Let me say this on the RH case, though. So it's a blessing for everybody who's been holding for this whole time to finally see it, obviously. It's like we couldn't believe it. Wait a minute. It got dropped and happened on the weekend. And then on top of that, then the crypto reserve comes out. It was like, wait, what? All this at one time? And then tariffs had to basically crap on the entire party. I mean, it was basically just so frustrating to see. But like we said, the foundations are getting built for the long-term cycle here. It's just going to be great. I know everybody in the Pulse Chain community certainly wants to see RH start streaming again. I would love to see that. I'm sure everybody else would too. Question for you guys. How would you like to see RH moving forward if the goal is to spread the knowledge and wealth across everybody to understand what it is he's done here? If that was the goal. Just curious to get your guys' thoughts on how would you like to see him, execute that?
Yeah, you want to take it first?
My answer shouldn't be surprising to most folks. I would like RH to mend bridges that are still mendable, and to also reach his hand across the aisle and have a civil discourse with anybody who's willing to speak to him, because this space, although growing and expanding, we are still niche, we are still the black sheep, and we cannot win this war alone. We need as many allies as we possibly can, and it's foolish, in my personal opinion, to be fighting amongst each other. We're all adults here. We can all exist on, there's enough bread for everybody here, especially if you're making good products and you're providing a good service for people. There's enough money to be made out here. And so instead of all of the infighting, instead of all of the dunking, what I would personally like to see is more of the humble Richard, and to him actually try and endear himself to the rest of the market, right? Like he's a grown man. He's gonna do whatever the heck that he wants. So this is not me waving my finger at him and telling him to do X, Y, and Z. But if I had my way, that's how I would approach it, right? Even if it's strictly for marketing purposes only.
Those are all excellent points. Notoriously, Richard Hart did initially build a bit of a name for himself with the Hex and Pulse Chain stuff through the outrage marketing. Was it effective? Yes. Did it set a bad example for the community that I think we may have built some bad habits on? I think also yes. At the same time, though, I think that some of the tweets that you've seen from Richard Hart lately, specifically the one congratulating Charles Hotchinson and the rest of the Cardano community about the ridiculous pump that they had yesterday and the day before, that's the kind of stuff that Jay is talking about, where it's like, if you can build bridges, that's a great and classy way to do it. Shake the hand, say, hey, great job over there. We can all win together. So hopefully, I think we can enter the benevolent Richard Hart era, where we see more of that activity going on. And I think that once the chart on his products really confirms the success, I think it's going to be very easy for the other side to accept the handshake and be like, okay, yeah, we there's enough room for everybody here.
Z, I'm gonna
Don't tell me he just started dunking on Charles Hutchinson today. Don't tell me.
I'm gonna bring up that exact same tweet. Hold up, let me see. All right, okay. Where is the Chuck tweet? Because I saw that. Here we go. Can you pull up my screen share real quick, Z? Because this was a hilarious tweet. Congratulations, Ada, for your pump today. Pulse Chain did 83 million of volume on its chain today. Cardano did 3 million. I don't think Richard was being nice. I think that was a low-key jab.
I think it can go both ways. That's my personal take on it. And the reason that I say that is because Charles Hutchinson also, the day before, congratulated RH on the court victory. So I understand what you're getting at there. Is that kind of like a backhanded compliment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, I'm hoping for a better direction. So call me blindly optimistic on this one. I will say this. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone really has a good read on what Richard Hart is going to do. Because if you had told me that Richard Hart was going to launch a meme coin launch pad, I would have told you that's ridiculous. He's written about how you should probably just invest in good projects, and many people are out there trying to take your money, and that kind of goes against his core principles. But at the same time, he did launch Pump.Tires over on Pulse Chain, which is effectively just a fork of the Pump.Fund protocol, but with slightly different fees that help benefit the Pulse Chain ecosystem. So the future of Richard Hart, I think, is going to be unpredictable as always.
Remember, though, he'll build stuff if people want it. He has no problem with that, but he's made it very clear
Correct.
that own and hold certain assets, and that everyone's going to try to come out there and try to get you to swap their coins. And a lot of people have done that, and then some people made money, a lot of people got wrecked. So that's typically what he's suggested. Now going back to the SEC real quick. Now, I remember reading, or we were talking about before, the SEC now can't just go after anybody just on a claim. They have to present that material supposedly to some entity. Is that the crypt? Is that the which agency now? Because they have to get it almost like a warrant or an approval that you're allowed to go after and serve them. You're going after them essentially. I know you know this, Zenith. What was it?
So the SEC still does have its own bit of law enforcement capability, more in the civil realm than the criminal realm. So it is possible for them to absolutely exercise that authority where they see fit. But at the same time, though, under the new administration, a lot of that is going to be going through the head and going through the the Crypto Advisory Committee and ultimately the president himself. So is the Crypto Advisory a law enforcement tool? No, it's not. Did the president direct one of his federal agencies to talk to these people more and work with them? Also, yes. So that is where I think that's the through line that you're drawing on this one. Am I wrong?
Yes, it is. And I'm looking for more for that. I don't know if quality control is the right aspect, but basically making sure people aren't going rogue. That's the correct way to put it, I think. So that's basically what I was leaning towards. So we shouldn't see a lot of companies being attacked right now for the SEC. If anything, I mean, like we said, with the administration and all the new changing of very pro crypto environment, we expected to see more of this coming. So we're not really surprised. I think we're more surprised how quickly it's coming. But we also talked about, and you guys have stated here many times, you have 100 days basically to get things rolling. They are not wasting time, that's for sure.
Not at all.
It seems fast. It just seems like everything that's been controversial, it's just, they're just throwing it out there, executive orders, signing this one. I mean, I know this is completely off topic, but just for, people have been really spun up about Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame. Now he's going to write it. He was pushing now to try to get that done too. It's like he wants to appease so many people, and regardless of what area it is now, it's just funny. He's basically acting like, I don't know, a political Santa Claus, I guess is how you would want to call it.
You could call it that, but this is a personal opinion here. I think none of this is, it's surprising how fast it's happening, but it's not unexpected, which is that this is a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump ran on, and it's just putting it into effect. And we've just never seen it to this degree before. But at the same time, we never really saw a politician like Donald Trump before. And his whole thing is he's trying to drain the swamp. Round one, when he was president number 45, he was trying to play ball, trying to learn how it works, then unfortunately got tied up in that whole mess. Now that he's experienced and knows how it works, he knows how to get it done effectively, and I think that's what we're seeing here. So it's breaking things and moving fast, which I personally am a fan of. But to a lot of people that maybe are more entrenched or not used to this kind of thing, it definitely seems unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah, but I'll say this much. People can't complain about how slow the government is, and then all of a sudden you see somebody lighting a fire under and making things work and be shocked by it. I mean, do you want change or not? And this is it. It's funny because even the media can't keep up with how many stories are happening, how quickly it's moving. It's pretty funny because as soon as they're bringing something out, they can't even stay on topic because they've got to move to the next story.
I would agree with you, but the start of that last point you just made there, which is that people are not expected for this much force to move this quickly. I think that's one of the great philosophical or political debates that we're having right now, which is the reach and power of the federal government and what it should be and what we want the office of the president to be able to do. I think that the tale of the 20th century, now leading into the 21st, has been the growth of the power of the executive agency, largely because the legislature has been delegating a lot of that power over there. So we've seen it. I mean, not to say it too many times, but it's kind of the tale of the One Ring, which is that
you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I know we all have what I would argue are some very similar political philosophies on this one. But the idea is that if you don't want the government to have this sort of power and reach, then don't give it that power in the first place. But now that it's here, you got to understand that it's going to be wielded in some way. It could be in the ways that you like. It could be in the ways that you don't like, depending on which side of the aisle you fall on, based on whatever administration is currently holding the One Ring. So one of my hopes is that theoretically we discover where Mount Doom is and we go throw that ring right in there and get back more to the triumvirate, which is the executive, the legislature, and the courts, as opposed to just trying to shove a bunch of things into the, yeah. Oh yeah. Like, believe me, the alphabet agencies, I do believe we're at a what's the word I'm looking for?
Fourth turning.
Maybe that, but I think this is the critical moment. This is where we decide which direction we're going to go. I know I'm really going on the political soapbox here, but I do think that this administration is the one where we could see a course correction. We could see a change in the direction of pretty much the story of the governments over the 20th century, and we might have a better future in the 21st. So,
yeah.
Again, that's Uncle Z hopping on the soapbox there. Yeah. So take it how you will.
Agree. I think at the very minimum, you know that he's bringing in people that seem to now shift what the traditional conservative view of government is and will be. I think the folks like JD Vance and even some people over on the Democratic side, right? Some of the younger folks coming in, they definitely have the starts of this paradigm shift where if it's not going to be accomplished during this 4-year term for Donald Trump, I think the people who are going to succeed him within the Conservative Party are going to be able to accomplish more of those. Because I think the time of the old way of doing things in the Conservative Party is gone. It is done. I think you would be foolish if you, as an elected official who wants to run for president, do not take into consideration Donald Trump's playbook. Because if you do not, you will most likely lose to the Democrats over and over and over and over again, because they will play to win and you play not to lose.
I would agree. And to take that one step further, I think a lot of people in the early, the aughts and the tens of the 21st century really woke up to the idea of not the one axis, but the two axis political philosophy, which is you have kind of like the Republican conservative axis, and then you also have authoritarian versus libertarian. I think we're almost getting a third axis start to develop now, which is the globalism versus populism argument. It's why you see these weird things happen where Bernie Sanders supporters turned into Trump supporters, and then you also see people that are voting for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez also voting for Trump on the same ticket. There's definitely is a realignment, and people are realizing that there's more to it than just the headline Democrat Republican thing. There's a lot of different factions. There's a lot of different ways you can take this thing. And again, it's a bit of a realignment.
Agreed. Yeah. The Republicans just have to catch up, have to play catch up, because there was already that realignment within the Democratic Party, I would say about 2 presidents ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Alrighty, gentlemen.
Further. I have to go back further. I think it all took a major U-turn on JFK, but that's here nor there.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that one for the historians. True. Alrighty, gentlemen, we are about wrapping it up here. Do we have any final thoughts on the Richard Hart case or the SEC stuff?
I do not. I do have some final thoughts on the market during the course of the hour that we've been streaming.
Oh, I've been watching it too, brother.
Took a nosedive, and I said when you see structure start to lean bearish, it would be foolish to ignore it, and it just happened live. You don't see it in the chart, but I'm pretty sure people are watching on the charts and at home, and man, it is nasty.
Agreed. I got the 1 hour chart pulled up on my other screen. We started off the show at about $86,000 Bitcoin, and we dipped all the way down to 82,500. So yeah, things are moving. I guess the Asian markets woke up while we were midstream as usual. Sure. Alrighty, gentlemen, let's go around the horn. Where can the folks find you? What do we got going on in the near future? Mr. J, why don't you start us off?
Well, we have Telegram Tuesday tomorrow. And so I probably will not be doing my morning stream unless it really necessitates a quick update before Telegram Tuesday. But otherwise, I will be with our good buddy Dace Northall at 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe. 2 p.m. Eastern.
You got it.
And then we also have Whiskey Wednesday the following day, I believe. And then obviously book club on Friday. Oh, no book club on this Friday, correct? Because you guys will be at the 369 conference. So you'll find me in the Telegram. and you'll catch my streams every single morning, probably sometime between 6 to 7 a.m. And yeah, find me in the Telegram, man.
Go. Well said, sir. All right, Tracker, what do you got going on? Where can the folks find you?
I should be on the Telegram Tuesday tomorrow with Jay and Dace. Obviously here, you catch me in the chats, the DGen Roundtable chats and the memes, and all the funny stuff that we put together in there. But we're also working on, we're going to revitalize the Crypto 101 stuff. I know me and Zenith are going to be talking about this. We're going to take another turn. We're going to start building out a lot of material for you guys. So everybody who's either new to this or people who are in crypto, they get sick and tired of having to explain stuff to everybody. We're trying to lay this out and make it literally an idiot's guide to what they need to understand, that will hopefully, answer a lot of those concerns and questions to try to help people navigating through this landmine of crypto and uncertainty. I know it's not going away. It's gonna keep flourishing, obviously, on all the things we just talked about. So we're hoping to really dive into that and hopefully give a safe haven area where people can listen to something that's actually trusted and not just outdated as well, because a lot of stuff is out there, but it's outdated. So we need to keep it up to date. These are living videos and documents. So we're going to try to build out for people. So looking forward to that.
Agreed. Well said, sir. I actually had a bit of a realization this last week as well. I was talking to some of my military friends, and they asked me even about how's all the crypto stuff going? And I was like, well, it's definitely exciting times. If you remember when I was yelling at you guys about a year and a half ago to buy Bitcoin at $25,000, well, we're at 100K. So they said, oh, that's cool. And I was like, yeah, well, if you're looking for growth, this is a good way to do it. And they're like, we'll stick with our traditional stuff. They told me it's one more thing to learn and manage, and I don't want to forget about it. And I was thinking to myself,
fine.
I don't know how you're going to forget about a crypto wallet that just 4x'd in value theoretically, but whatever you say. So yeah, Tracker's saying with the Crypto 101 stuff, explaining to people that this is just, it's something you got to learn. If you want to be on the forefront of technology and investments, this is the new thing. And hopefully that barrier to entry drops as we go over time.
When everybody starts talking about it, it's and telling you need to be getting in, and 401k start accepting and all this stuff. It's kind of the money you're getting towards the tail end of actually making ahead of the bell-shaped curve as far as making profits. Make it simple. Go get a central exchange. Buy up a basket of crypto, just like any other 401k, risk appetite. It's that simple. It's not rocket science, and we will dumb it down for the masses. That's not a problem.
Really is true. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to give a shout out to a few folks. We got Centurion 54X, aka 54 Cent. He says, "What's up, fellas? Good to see you, my man. I hope you enjoyed the stream." And on top of that, we got our good friend Will Stevenson. Speak of the devil, we were talking about this guy earlier. The my partner in crime when it comes to everything legal. He's also going to be with me in Vegas. I think he's getting out there a little earlier, but I'm going to be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to be hanging out, talking to everybody Pulse Chain, and we even have an excellent opportunity to talk to the treasurer of Nevada about all things cryptocurrency. I'm very much looking forward to it. Outside of that, though, folks, I'm Zenith. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI. I like to post a lot of legal stuff and government updates and some good memes and market updates over there as well. Outside of that, though, you can follow the show at Walk the Block NDF over on X and Instagram as well. We post show updates, and we're starting to post a little bit more about everything going on in the markets as well. Outside of that, though, folks, I know that we live in exciting times. I'm not going to say trying times, but these definitely are exciting times, as the volatility index showed today. But outside of that, I hope all you guys continue to keep a weather eye on the horizon as we all continue to navigate those crypto seas together. With that being said, good night, everybody. We'll catch you guys next time.